You've probably had a corn tortilla before, but you may not have had a traditional masa tortilla. They look relatively similar, but if you've had masa before, you know that masa has a much more complex taste and texture. Masa is very easy to make and a great addition to any Mexican meal. You can make them in your home. Corn or maize is essential to the root of Mexican cuisine. And the author of The People of the Corn, Cristina Santini, says, "Maize is not only a crop, but a deep cultural symbol intrinsic to daily life. I've loved Mexican food for my whole life. I've been making Mexican food for a long time, and I recently had an opportunity to have authentic Mexican tortillas in Mexico City. Today I'm going to discuss the origins of masa, the unique properties of masa, and how you can make masa dough, and specifically masa tortillas, in your home. First, let's look at the origins of masa. Corn has long been a staple of Mexican culture. The early Aztecs planted it, nurtured it, worshipped it, and ate it. The evolution of corn is one of the main reasons that the early indigenous people were able to transform into capable farmers. One of the breakthroughs in their farming was the transformation of that corn into what we now call masa. Masa has been the base of Mexican food since the early Aztecs invented it. It's what you're eating when you're eating tortillas, tortilla chips, sopas, most Mexican foods. So what is masa? Masa is essentially corn that has been through a process called nixtamalization. This process consists of taking the corn kernels and cooking them, soaking them, and cleaning them through a solution with a very high alkaline content. Traditionally, the early indigenous people would use wood ash, but over the years that's evolved, and now people use something called lime water. Lime water is not to be confused with lime juice or anything to do with limes. It's more about limestone. Lime water is a technical term for a chemical solution of calcium hydroxide. Once the corn has been through this process and has transformed from this process, it can then be made into a masa dough. Now that we know what masa is, let's look at some of the unique properties of masa. Essentially, it comes down to two basic advantages when compared to corn flour or wheat flour. First, it tends to have a much more complex taste and much less homogeneous taste. It also tends to be very earthy. This happens through that nixtamalization process. While in that process, the corn shell is weakened, and there's a chemical reaction within that corn shell that releases some of the corn's flavor and aroma into that lime water, and then the corn soaks in it. Another reason the taste is more complex is that masa is traditionally made with heirloom corn. So that just means it's got a wider variety of corn seeds instead of what you might buy at the grocery store, which is generally one seed that's mass produced. The other advantage of masa is that it provides a better nutritional profile. Masa dough is much softer, it's airier, less starchy, and it's easier for your body to digest than corn or wheat. Masa also has a lower fat content. The nixtamalization process also removes what's called mycotoxins from the corn and a lot of the impurities in that corn. Now that we know about some of the benefits, let's talk about how you can make tortillas at home. First, you'll want to buy a bag of masa harina. This is the name brand. You can also buy pre-made dough at Mexican markets, but if you're going to be making it from this flour, you'll want to treat it a little differently than wheat flour or corn flour in that it absorbs water much faster. So you have to knead it for much longer. Usually it takes about 20 to 30 minutes of kneading before it becomes a sticky dough. Once it becomes sticky, it's not as crumbly, you'll want to let it sit for 5 minutes until it can absorb some more of that water, and then you want to test it. Rick Martinez from Bon Appetit says, "The test for the perfect consistency is a trick my mother taught me. Slap the dough with an open palm. If any dough sticks to your hand, keep kneading. If the hand comes out clean, you are ready to press and cook." Now that you've made the dough, you'll want to break that dough into golf ball sized balls, and then you want to press it with a tortilla press, and then you're ready to cook. You'll cook it on a very high heat for about 10 seconds, and then you'll flip it for about another 10 seconds, and you'll know it's ready when you see it start to swell up. then you're ready to eat. That's pretty much it. So in conclusion, today we've talked about the origin of masa in Mexico, some of the unique properties of masa, and how you can make masa tortillas in your home. Maricel Priscilla, the author of Gran Cocina Latina, The Food of Latin America, says, "One of the only ways to define Latin American cooking, which covers such an enormous area, is with masa." Thank you.